wait a minute. Go back a sec. Medic's not supposed to be able to stomp people. That's not right. How do you do that? How did you... TF2 features 2 weapons that allow players to kill people by stomping on their heads. But neither of these weapons are equipable by the medic. But despite that...
How the medic can do that? How the...
This bug is incredibly simple to reproduce. Step 1, heal a pyro with the quick fix. Step 2, have that pyro use the jetpack 1 time. That's it. That's the entire bug. You now have the thermal thruster stomp effect for the rest of the round. Well, assuming you don't, die or something. So now you can fly around stomping to your heart's content.
Okay, that one was good.
This bug is actually identical to a much more well-known bug that the pyro can do for himself. Swap to the jetpack, then swap to a different secondary while not stood in your spawn room. Or you can use this command that disables auto-swapping loadouts in spawn. Then use the jetpack to jump into the resupply cabinet and make sure you don't touch the floor before you touch the cabinet. If you did it correctly, you will swap to your other secondary, but the sound of the jetpack will persist, and you will now have the stomp effect without the jetpack equipped. And if you find the constant jetpack noise annoying, you can use this command to turn it off. This bug is super well known by now and is a favourite of many a clip farming pyro main. And the reason it works is relatively simple. If you have the jetpack and you just fall from a higher place, you don't actually stomp people. It's not like the man treads where the effect is just permanently active. Instead, the stomp effect is only applied to you after you become airborne via the jetpack's thrust. And when you touch the ground again, the game tells your thermal thruster to remove the effect from the player. But when you launch into the air with the jetpack, but then change loadout before touching the ground, this check breaks. The game tries to tell your thermal thruster to remove the effect, but no thermal thruster is found, so the check fails and the effect remains. The quick fix version of this bug is almost identical. The game gives the medic the stomp effect, but then when they hit the ground again, the game tries to tell the medic player's thermal thruster to remove the stomp effect. But the medic doesn't have a thermal thruster, so the stomp remains. But it's not just stomping on people. You also take 75% less fall damage whilst this bug is active. So even if you have no intention of stomping on people, this is still a pretty nice thing to have. This bug does come with a downside though. A downside that can be really, really detrimental.
I got... I was about to say random crit. It's a mini crit because I have the Stomp.
This bug causes the game to think that you are constantly airborne from a blast jump, even when you're stood on the ground, which means the direct hit and reserve shooter will permanently mini crit you no matter what, which can cause some interesting problems.
What the fuck?
Now, honestly, calling this tech feels like a huge stretch, to be honest. It's just too funny to not put in a video. I just have to talk about it. So the most common piece of movement tech in TF2 is rocket jumping, damaging yourself to launch yourself through the air. There's also surfing, using enemy damage to propel yourself through the air. But what if instead of surfing the damage of a guy who's trying to kill you, instead you surf the damage of a guy who is intentionally trying to launch you around?
Off like that, and then you yeah.
Oh.
This is like the dumbest thing I've done in TF2, but it's really funny, and I would recommend trying it. There's a few good ways to do this. A really cool one is with spots like this. These rocks slope together in such a way where if I sit in this gap just right, I'm not actually touching the floor. So the game thinks I'm airborne even though I'm clearly not. It's like when you hover on a sloped surface like this, except I'm completely stationary. If you get into a spot like this, then shoot yourself with the rocket jumper, you can market garden people infinitely without actually moving anywhere. Get an enemy dead ringer spy to stand on your head and you can fling them into the sky. There's this spot on Badwater, and there's also this spot here on Upward. If you hold a movement key into the wall, you can hover on this ledge forever. But my favorite way to do this is with the Neon Annihilator. This melee weapon crits people who are wet. So if there's a pool of water on the map, you can use the Neon Annihilator to fling people into space. The Pyro's jetpack is also incredibly useful for this. Wearing this item makes you take 50% increased knockback. So hitting this guy without the jetpack sends him this far, but hitting him with the jetpack sends him this far. So at first, we just used this to launch people super high onto 2-fort battlements.
It's the fly into torpedo combo.
But then we thought, wouldn't it be funny if rather than launching someone into the sky, instead you launched them through the water like a torpedo, just directly into a guy's face. And on my very first attempt, I had something rather tragic happen. No. That's unedited footage, by the way. Like, my game just decided to do that. But eventually, we got this one. He lived. Okay, it's fine. He didn't live. It was alright. But after a while, we realized 2-fort might not be a very big map, but you can still do this exact same thing on 2-fort, which is how I invented the brand new Pyro subclass, the Five Nights at Freddy's Pyro. I've talked about getting stuck in TF2 like 7 trillion times by now, but my stuck launch addiction just can't be satiated, apparently, so we're gonna have to talk about it just one more time, just one more. So have you ever noticed that sometimes when you play Barn Blitz and you walk out of blue spawn, you sort of get stuck in the floor for a second as you leave the spawn door? Or have you ever walked over this staircase on Moss Rock and gotten stuck for just a moment? Well, these are what we like to call potholes, named after every single road in the entirety of Britain. They're caused by tiny gaps in displacements, the tool mappers use to make natural looking geometry, or tiny gaps in clip brushes, the invisible walls that mappers can place into their maps. So check this spot out on Barn Blitz. If you zoom in real close to the floor, you'll notice that where the wooden floor meets the snowy displacement, there's a tiny gap here. This gap is literally a hole in the map, and you can see directly through it onto the other side. On maps with bright skyboxes, these are very easy to spot, because the bright blue sky will literally shine through the hole in the floor. When you walk over these gaps in just the right way, part of your bounding box goes underneath the floor and gets stuck for a second. This gap is incredibly tiny, but it is there. There's also this evil messed up pothole on Thunder Mountain right here. This one's strange because it's not caused by a hole in the map, but instead by a displacement being too tall. If I look at this beam from this side, you can see that it bends downwards in the middle. But if you look at it from the other side, there's this flat part that sticks up right here. This flat part is a displacement. So when you walk into this displacement from the side it's invisible on, you can just walk directly inside of it and get stuck in it. For the most part, potholes just sort of get you stuck briefly before the game kicks you out of the floor and lets you keep moving. But there is one pothole that's super insane that shows up right here on Snowy Coast. If you check where the displacement meets the wooden floor just next to the first point, you can see a small gap in the displacement. If you walk up to this crate and put your crosshair right in the middle of this beam, then turn to face the displacement and aim roughly around here, you can crouch walk forward into this pothole and you fall directly into the floor. And if you do it right, you will get permanently stuck in this spot, unable to move until you die. I'm not 100% sure why this pothole gets you full stuck when most others don't, but once you're full stuck, you can do a whole bunch of funny things. You can give yourself tons of velocity without actually moving anywhere. Then you can use that stored velocity to launch people off of your head into the sky, or use it to give your flamethrower infinite range. If you want more detailed explanations of momentum storage and how to use it, then these videos will help you a great deal. Now, this one pothole is super insane for some reason, but these other potholes can also be used in incredible ways. See, potholes are kind of like the holy grail of stuck launches, because the downside of every other stuck launch is that one player is stuck in the wall or floor, unable to move or do anything. They just serve as a vehicle to launch the other guy into space. But potholes allow the stuck player to get unstuck whenever they want, and it allows you to launch both players from the stuck launch at the same time. And it's very easy. All you have to do is stand on the stuck guy's head. If I crouch walk all over this pothole, I will repeatedly get get stuck and then unstuck over and over again. But if I crouch walk over it while someone is stood on me, I will get stuck and stay stuck until that player gets off my head. And shortly after they're launched, I will follow them up there with the velocity I gave myself. So you can fling 2 players into space over and over again as many times as you want. The way this works is actually really stupid. When you get stuck in an object, the game does some checks to see if nudging you in a certain direction would get you unstuck. First, it checks if it should nudge you downwards slightly, then up, then left, then right, then it continues with a bunch of different possible directions. If you get stuck in a pothole the normal way, the way to get you unstuck is by nudging you upwards, to move your bounding box up from inside the ground. But when there's a player stood on your head, the game checks above you and sees that player. And since they're an obstacle that the game doesn't want you to get stuck inside of, the game refuses to nudge you upwards in that direction. And then it keeps doing the rest of the stuck checks, all of which don't get you unstuck from the floor. So you stay stuck there for as long as the guy is stood on your head. So you can use this to your advantage to hit some really hilarious clips.
This guy's just like...
They can see me. They can see me.
Yeah.
Yeah. That guy does not give a fuck.
Right.
There's people there.
Yeah, I'm going, I guess.
One of these is me.
Oh!
Potholes are surprisingly common, but they're also really hard to go out and find for yourself, because the gaps can be so small that they're almost completely invisible to the naked eye. And sometimes they literally are invisible to the naked eye. But when you find one, you can do some really cool things with it. Or it'll, you know, get you stuck in the floor while you're trying to run from a pyro and then you'll just die because this game is just completely dog shit. When I shoot the detonator at myself, I go about this far. But when an enemy shoots a flare at me, and I reflect it right as they detonate it, I go this far. Why it do that? Why is that what it... Shunik has a great explanation of why this works in this video here. But if you wanted a way worse explanation of the exact same thing, then watch this, right? So when you fire a detonator, the detonator remembers that it fired the flare, right? And then when you press mouse 2, the flare explodes and the detonator forgets about the flare that just blew up. But then when you reflect a detonator flare, the guy that fired it is the guy that can mouse 2 to blow it up and not you, right? So the flare belongs to me because I reflected it, but he is the guy who detonates it. So when he presses mouse 2, the flare blows up, but the flare doesn't delete itself properly because I own the flare, but the game thinks he owns the flare, but I own the flare. So instead of deleting itself after firing, it instead blows up continuously once every frame for 0.015 seconds. Did you get all that? Did you understand that? No, of course you didn't. Go watch the Shunik video. He's like way better at this. Just go watch his. This bug is very infamous among Highlander pyro mains. Not because of any cool tech or anything, but because sometimes it just causes them to spontaneously combust and die. But if you're feeling adventurous, you can use this bug to your advantage to hit some pretty nasty clips.
I'm going for the ruby drill.
That one wasn't bad.
What?
Boom. Oh!
Good game show. Well, not game
It's
show,
a
like
movie.
film. Sorry, film. Film
Okay,
of like
that
a
was,
game show.
That was the clip. I got the clip.
Oh, what's that on?
I sat on this Htwo server doing this for like 2.5 hours and I didn't get bored for even a single second. Now this bug has some really crazy inconsistency to it. Sometimes the flare detonates just a few times and gives you a smaller amount of knockback. And sometimes it detonates so many times that you just instantly explode.
Oh my god. I'm dead.
The reason it has this variance is that this bug happens over the course of one in-game tick. There are 66 ticks in a second, so one tick is 0.015 seconds. The flare detonates constantly inside of one tick before the game automatically deletes the flare. If you happened to reflect the flare later in the tick, then it only has a short amount of time to explode before the next tick occurs and the flare disappears. But if you happen to reflect it early in the tick, it will detonate a massive number of times and will instantly vaporize you. With an overheal from a med, it's incredibly unlikely that you'll actually die, so what will happen instead is you just get maxfelled directly to the skybox like a speeding bullet. Now all of these were set up by my friend. I was being fed the detonator flares to jump with, but if you're really lucky and the stars align, you can do this completely organically against a player who shoots the detonator at you. Sadly, I'm not talented enough to do that though. Like someone else will have to do that for me because I really don't. I'm not good enough at the game. For this one, I want to play a little game with my audience, because this last tech I want to show you has been hiding in plain sight this entire time. I have already used this tech for many of the clips that you've seen in this video, and it showed up numerous times in the intro segment of the video too. Did you spot it? Did you notice it staring you in the face? It's this tiny, insignificant, pointless particle effect staring you in the face the entire time. The final tech is called Taunt Cancelling, and despite having almost no practical use cases, despite being nearly completely and utterly pointless, it has rapidly become one of my favorite techs in the entire game. But first, what is a taunt cancel? Simply, a taunt cancel is when you cancel a taunt's animation early in some way. The most common way is to lose your footing on the ground beneath you. Like, watch this example. If I taunt on this player's head and then they walk out from under me, my taunt will end early. If the player dies while you're on their head, the same thing will happen. But there's a couple of other ways that you can achieve a similar effect. The payload cart can push you into a wall that makes you fall off. You can stand on an engineer's building as they destroy it. There's also what's called a push trigger. If a mapper doesn't want you to be able to stand on a piece of scenery like a tree or a sign, the mapper will put a trigger on it that stops you from standing there. If you taunt right as you touch this surface, you will begin taunting, then the push trigger will push you off the surface, ending the taunt early. There's also these conveyor belts on Koth Boardwalk. These conveyor belts are also push triggers, so they work in the same way. Now, the one and only practical use for taunt cancelling, the big elephant in the room, is the Phlogistonator. Usually that 10-second duration is partially eaten up by your taunt. But with taunt cancelling, you can cancel this animation to get extra duration on your flog crits. The taunt also makes you invulnerable for its duration. But even if the taunt ends early, the invulnerability remains. The most powerful way to do this is easily with a friendly engineer. Have them build you a teleporter, then taunt on top of it as they destroy it. This is insanely easy to do and is unironically overpowered. It's kind of disgusting. Push triggers are also just insanely good for this. And you can also just do it by jumping onto people's heads. You can even use stuck launches to do this. Jump onto the stuck player's head and hold mouse 2. This will make you taunt the very tick you land on their head, only to be instantly launched into the sky while completely invulnerable. The flog is the one and only practical use case for taunt cancelling. But there's a whole bunch of other things you can do with taunt cancelling that are, in my opinion, way cooler, because their one and only purpose is for style points. Certain taunts have these gaudy looking particle effects that follow them around, the Shred Alert being the gaudiest of them all. These particle effects play out in their entirety no matter what happens. So if you're using some sick TF2 tech to launch yourself into the sky to try and hit a clip, you can use taunt cancelling to add some extra flair to all of your kills. The way you do this is simple in concept, but pretty tricky to do in practice. You need to land on the enemy's head, hold crouch, swing your melee at them, and then press your taunt button immediately afterwards. When you swing your melee in TF2, there's a delay between you pressing left click and your melee actually doing damage. This delay is exactly 0.2 seconds. But when you press M1, the 0.2 second timer can only be interrupted by you dying. So if you press M1, then immediately taunt, your melee will still come out uninterrupted and will still deal damage. So if you crouch and melee, then immediately taunt, your melee will hit the player that you're standing on, leaving only this ridiculous looking particle effect behind. The only class that can't do this is the Spy, because Spy's melee weapons are the only melees in the game that do not have this 0.2 second delay. When you press mouse 1, your melee does damage instantaneously. So even if you use a bind that lets you attack and taunt on the exact same game tick, you still won't be able to taunt cancel. It actually causes this strange bug where your Spy's knife makes the crit sound and your Spy does the backstab animation, but then it doesn't do any damage and cancels into your taunt. It looks incredibly janky. But on every other class in the game, doing taunt cancels like this is incredibly fun. Now the downside of this is that it can look incredibly stupid when it goes wrong.
There's a...
He's
Can you
alive.
put your stream back on, by the way?
That was sick. I'm going now.
Hey, looks good now.
That's insane.
What? That was crazy.
There's also this taunt called the Yeti Smash. This taunt has unique jank that only works with this taunt. For some reason, this taunt is incredibly sensitive to being cancelled. Taking any damage whatsoever cancels the taunt instantly, even if 0 knockback was dealt to you. You can also cancel the taunt yourself by shooting a rocket jumper rocket right before you taunt. This works with no other taunt in the game, only the Yeti. You can even B-hop cancel the Yeti. Like, you just jump and taunt at the exact same time and the taunt just ends. This is tick perfect, by the way. This game's so stupid, man. What am I even talking about? The f***? And Yeti cancelling, much like taunt cancelling with the Shred Alert, is completely and utterly pointless. But somehow, it being pointless just makes it that much cooler. It's like the peak of TF2 tech knowledge, using some evil forbidden TF2 tech that nobody knows about for no other reason than to style on the guy you just killed, in a way that he doesn't even notice. Now, to end my video about TF2 tech, I'm going to show you all the clips I managed to hit that didn't quite make it into the rest of the video, and I hope you enjoy.
That was kind of shit on my part.
Oh! I got hit by it. No, he doesn't even die. Bro.
Can you do your best Sentry Down engineer impression?
Sentra down.
That was actually pretty good. You should clip that.
Day in game, even though.
Oh my god. I'm cratering. Jesus.
Sounds dumb, but I gotta find it.
Oh,
They full out.
I think it might be. It's choke.
Can you arrow? I'm really weak. I don't.
Who's standing?
He's on our side. He's on our side. He's on our. Boom. We'll look up. Potholes! Potholes at me!
I can switch.
Yippee! I love pyro! Yippee! Yippee! This class is so hard.
I think they should kill you over a rock.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I need to clip that.
Hi guys, Htwo here. So the reason this clip's funny is because I actually hit my caber on the rocket, and then the rocket ate my caber, so I don't have a caber, and it broke my caber. So that's a funny clip, because that doesn't happen very often, because I hit the guy's rocket.
Fleet rush.
You use me as a stepping stone to get to D-Lock, and then I'll shoot you. Oh! Oh! Surely. Oh!
Yeah!
Oh!
The most fun you can have online.
How you move so fast?
Well, you got another thumbnail now.
How you move so fast? I'm screen. Yeah, it's a thumbnail.
You can walk out the other one. Like it's locked off.
Well, you can't.
You know the door that pushes you, makes you jump? Remember that?
The door that makes you jump.
The door that makes you jump. The beach that
The beach that makes you old.
I like.
Way. Way in the bin.
Yeah.
Way.
That's fucking beast.
Thanks for watching.